in these 2 weeks, and so I think I'm getting like a high level understanding of the system, and also I'm getting used to like reviewing the output from the like AI or cursor. So I'm trying to adapt to this new way of uh, working. Uh, so that's been like my how I felt in these 2 past weeks. And like one thing I noticed is that uh, to some extent I'm able to move faster in the implementation just because I'm just like iterating with the AI in case I need to specify like a behavior that I want.
Yeah,
But definitely more time is spent in the reviewing and like redirecting the outputs from the AI.
awesome. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I was doing some open source stuff as part of an internship, and it was like this is when GPT would just came out and stuff, so it wasn't great yet. But I found this plugin that where you could connect it to a repo, and the repo is open source, so I could fork it. So I just forked it and then connected this to GPT with this through this plugin they had, and I could ask questions about the repository. So when I was just doing like minor little bug fixes just to get like the tag on GitHub, but it was really easy to find like what files connect. I didn't have to go through and click imports and go read a bunch of files and like map it out on paper or anything. I could just ask and get a summary of like because it would map all those different relationships. So it makes it super helpful to find out where things are at and like what what stack they're using. Like what are they using for their database. And I think that one was using Prisma at the time. So I was able to, ask where those files were and just get everything back. So it's really helpful. I think it speeds us up a lot. Um, yeah, one of the challenges I find with it, just to share real quick before we kick off, is like the reading fatigue, right? Like you're just getting so much information so quickly, like you start reading and you realize, oh wait, like I'm reading this, but I'm not really internalizing it. So it's taking that, this like take a minute to stretch and like come back and read and really try to stay up to speed with what's going on. Especially if you have limited token use. If you could just set up a feedback loop with the LLM and let it run till tests pass and specs are met, then you can more judge outputs. But it really depends on the resources available. I think, like as inference costs and token use limits and stuff. But uh, yeah. So anyway, just sharing a little bit. But we'll focus on the observability and traceability, the 3-page dashboard. We'll go from just a quick design discussion, just cursory really about the dashboard, then the live demo, and the gate is just like me doing a mental checklist of where you guys are at um, on the code base, and then the retro will just be retrospective, so anyone can bring up questions or talk about anything they would like. So we'll just hop right in. So we want to focus on the observability. Uh, oh, there we go. My screen, it's weird that it's clicking is weird. Okay, yeah. If, so again, we just bring up this question: if something broke at 2 a.m., what do you need to see immediately? And by a show of reactions, I guess I don't. We can't do hands here. Did everyone get to the dashboard? Is there anyone that has not got the dashboard completed yet for the Streamlit dashboard?
I
Me
haven't
neither.
gotten to the dashboard.
Okay.
Me neither. I just got to it. I was just about to work on it, but yeah, that's about it.
Okay. Yeah, because like we're going to review it, so it's kind of we'll have to either catch up with between now and Monday probably to make sure you're just caught up. But tomorrow's kickoff, we'll start working on other things. And if you're far behind, you can always just use the implementation in that branch I shared with you just to keep you caught up, so we're not constantly playing catch up. But just a heads up, like the work this first couple of weeks has been relatively light as far as setting things up go. It's just been the basic framework and getting understanding. You'll get into more like problem solving and trying to implement solutions for the logic and for weeks going forward. And we'll, I'm talking to the director, how I imagine it's going to go, how I have it planned out. Anyways, I just need to get the green light from her. Is that rather than you guys all work on solo, you guys will each get assigned like a different experiment, and you will have to go and iterate and test those things out, and then come back with like a research on like how it works, make sure that your section of the code works well, and then we'll push it into a development branch. So I'm gonna create a development branch off main, um, either tonight or early tomorrow, and then I'll set it as the default branch, and we'll actually start having branches where um, you guys merge it into development rather than the main production branch. So we'll just work like a real team, and then we'll work on each thing separately. So the cadence and meeting the weekly milestones becomes more critical at that point, um, because there may be some dependencies. So, and if there's any issues, just please talk to me and our Peter. Reach out to us. Um, we want to accommodate, but also we need to keep things moving. We can't let things get too stale if things are falling behind. So yeah, because I think right now it's you could work. We have the flexibility, but it basically averages out to after meetings 4 hours a week or 4 hours a day, excuse me. So 20 hours a week of time to work on it. So yeah. So does anyone want to demo and just like for this 2 a.m. scenario, like show? You could answer the questions, but you could also, if you have your dashboard, you could really use the dashboard as an illustration to show your answer what you need to see immediately. So just showing the dashboard, and again, I'm recording just so everyone knows. Like it's just pretty much standard. I'll record everyone and put it in the class recordings thread.
I think I can demo.
Okay, great. Please do.
Uh, Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Let me.
Okay. Let me just. Okay. So here is my dashboard. I have the total entries right here. The unique records, how many of them were okay, how many of them were failed, and how many of them were skipped. I also have a sample, just like the first 10 entries to be here, just in case um, I would want to like just to like have a quick pick over the journey. Here is the entries, and I also have a per agent breakdown on the health check on all of the agents. Um, Next, I have the journey. I can select the which of the jobs. In this case, since there are 10, well, there are 10 here. I can also um, just search up like a number in case we have like a big database of records. So, for example, on record 4, I can see the correlation at DP4. I can see the agents, the status, the timestamp, the unique event IDs, the schema version they are using, and all the payload keys they are outputting or using. Also, I added like an error. I'm still making it work, but I wanted to show um, uh, like a type of error if they to be able to quickly visualize what type of error I get. Um, this also checks that the correlation ID is matching for all of the record, and they all use the same schema version. Lastly, I have the batch insights, which the how many run log entries we had, how many unique records we had, and the expected, just in case if we had like let's say 79 and we're expecting 80. I know there's one missing, so I'll just check the journey. And I can also check which agent skipped or had a health status of okay or failed. In this case, since the meta analysis is phase two, it is skipping, and I can check also in a graph that they are basically all the same, except the meta analysis, which is a different color because it skipped. And yeah, that's
Cool.
basically it.
So can you tell me the difference between the correlation and the event ID? Correlation ID and the event ID. And a follow up question is the event ID unique across different runs, or is it the same?
So the event ID is for first of all the difference between the correlation and the event ID is that the correlation ID, like to put it in simpler terms, it's it's a unique identifier that ties up the whole record in this case, the whole run. So all of this, we for sure know they all belong to the same job, so they all saw the same job or went through the same pipeline. And the event ID is a unique identifier for each event, and it's unique in every run.
All right, awesome. Do you
I
oh yeah, sorry. I was wondering, do you,
uh,
sorry, was there somebody else talking?
oh yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead first, please.
Oh, I just have like a clarifying question. My understanding was that, uh, like for each job, it will run through all the agents in the pipeline, and so that run will have a correlation ID. And then the event ID, and correct me if I'm mistaken, the event ID was the agent that uh, that was taking place for that job. Does my question make sense?
Yeah, it
Like
does make
having one
sense.
correlation ID for each job run, and then the event ID uh, was the agent. Uh,
Right.
Was that how was expected?
Yeah, so that's my understanding of the spec we came to a conclusion on too. So like the agent ID and event ID become
Oh,
agent and event ID become kind of redundant because the event ID basically could be the agent name, right?
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
But I'm thinking
Okay, yeah,
about like if it was an accident or we could have an open discussion about this, right? Because this is a design decision. Like, is it helpful for tracing to have a unique ID based on the event, or is the agent name and the correlation ID enough? I think because
yeah, I think they're enough because since
yeah,
they we can't have the same ingestion and correlation 81 be for another event.
right. Because that's like it's
Um,
almost like
yeah,
a composite key in a database, right? Because you have two things that are going to make okay, this is the ingestion agent for correlation ID, which is a unique ID for every run. So that's a composite key that's going to give you the information. And the agent ID is like the agent like column you have there, as it being the event
yeah, as
ID
this
is
one.
great because it's human readable, right? Really easy to see that oh, this was the ingestion agent rather than trying to have to parse a
Yeah.
universal identifier. Yeah, but yeah, just good
Okay,
discussion
so
points. Yep.
yeah, I'll remove the this column right here.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, but yeah, that's I think that's about it
Yeah,
for
good job
my
overall. It's just again, it's one
dashboard.
of those things that gets confused in the spec, especially when you're using
Yeah,
Gen AI. It like will make assumptions and it looks good, and you keep going, and it's like, oh yeah, this is output. So it's just learning how to navigate
um,
this new world.
yeah. Should I keep the error column? I mean, it's not yet implemented because I still not run like the full like the pipeline with all of the payloads. I mean, I do get the payload IDs and it does do a run with the mod data, But I mean, since it's mock data, I don't think it'll be easy for me to get an error. But I was wondering if I should keep this and try and implement it like a try catch, something like that, maybe.
Yeah, when you go to the spec,
Or
when you look at the specifications for the this, what does it say about the Streamlit app? Like, I know there's call some things out there, and rather than me go to it
yeah.
and reference it, let's go to it real quick and see what it says. You can, if
Um,
you don't mind, let's just do it as a group and you're screen sharing, so it's great to do it together.
yeah, the specs are where would they?
It's in Docs Planning, so it's a directory called Docs.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's here.
Oh, there it is. Oh, yeah, it's Docs Planning's my yeah. So Docs architecture. Um,
Scaffold
I
or no.
I think it's the docs directory outside agents. I
Yeah,
think
it
that one is
is. It
inside.
is. Yep. Okay. Here.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, okay,
There we
okay,
go. Yeah.
okay.
Planning. There
Yeah,
we go. Okay. I thought it was
it
there.
is
Then architecture deep.
deep, right?
Yep. And you can actually just drag this file into the cursor agent prompt.
Okay.
Yep. Just drag it over there and just say like, please give me the specs for the Streamlit app or something. Yeah. Good job
Okay.
changing too. Yep. So let's just see what it references here. So yeah, so it spits out all the stuff, right? So we can make that a little bigger. And so we have 3 pages, right? And the first page it has specifically what it wants on there. I do believe so. Phase one dashboard pages, page. Oh, this is dated. This has stuff we haven't even implemented yet. I know Ritu was asking for a lot, and we kept it simple. So yeah, basically, if it calls for it here, you want it on there. But if you're gonna add extra stuff, it'd really be good to open it as like an ADR doc thing, right? Like, oh, I want to add this. Here's the reasoning. This is why I think it's good for our system to have this and track
Okay.
this. But error handling is that there's an upstream unavailable server state data plus banner alert, render value. That's just for like the Streamlit itself if it's like it runs into rendering errors. Um, yeah, I know this is in here somewhere.
Should I keep it? No, should I ask it? Like,
Yeah, you can take a screenshot of your Streamlit app of that error message, like of this whole table. Just take like a screenshot. Yeah, perfect. Drop it in there and say, should should I have this here? Like it could have been like on page one or something. Just let it know that it is page one because there's 3 pages. But
oh yeah.
um, that's fine. Yeah, on page one. Yeah, because it might be somewhere else that it's supposed to show up.
Mm, okay, I think it. mm,
So yeah, if it's not, I don't think this is explicitly called out in the
Yeah, yeah,
doc. So like it kind of gives you some things here to think about, and then you can say, okay, yeah, I think this is good, or is that answered somewhere else? Kind of like with the same with the agent ID, right, or the event ID and the agent name. It's like one of those things where
yeah.
it might be useful, but if it's just being put in there, sometimes these training models they pull in something from just like their training data, and you don't really know if it should be there. But then I ask myself, well, is this good to include? Maybe it's an oversight on my part. Let me ask why and look into this, and are just rather than just dismiss it outright as like hallucinations, because it is very much a lot of times it's a hallucination because it's pulling stuff in, but um, being relatively new to architecting systems, I always ask why. Like, why would it? If this is a pattern that it's trained on, why is it often there? You know, like if it's using this, I want to go find out the why, and that's how I use it to learn. Um, so yeah, so to answer your question, it's fine to leave it there. We just got to standardize on it, and I have, basically, if you look at my Streamlit app, that's what we're going to standardize towards. And I have actually I'm working it and have a separate branch executed on my other screen. But yeah, if you look at the week the feet slash week 2 branch, and look at the implementation, that's what we're going to standardize on. So that way, if people are behind too or have issues with something, we all have the same one, and that will be merged into main, and then we'll work on our separate branches going. We'll pull from that and start going into week 3. Work on actual implementation. This first, like I said at the beginning, this first week 1 and 2 is basically just a hands-on exercise to familiarize yourselves with where things are at in the code base. When you start collaborating, you can understand how to like trace errors and figure where things are coming from and who to talk to. If we'll have our project board and we'll assign people's tasks, so you could go look at the project board on GitHub and say, oh, so and so is working on this for my last couple of weeks of work. I know that's touching these files, so I know that I could talk to them if there's going to be conflicts or something I need to edit. Does that make sense? So like having it there is really not that big a deal right now. Basically, this whole first couple of weeks is just to get familiar with the project and understand our tech stack and how our code structure is going to be. So
So for week 3, we'll pull like we can call it like a default branch, and then we'll create our own branches from that.
yeah, so
Okay.
yep. And there's some things like the abstract method class we could pull in, and there's other things that as we look at the classes, like I'll do a comparison and kind of see things that like are good to pull in that you guys have done. But other than that, it's all pretty boilerplate at this point. We're just setting up the framework to build the stuff. It's just the pipeline, all the nuts and bolts so data can be passed through. So, like
Yeah.
right now, I'm working on the week 3 repo. Like I got ingestion working for JSearch and ingestion and normalization working just to kind of work it out. But I run into problems too. But you're going to have some of the same problems when you guys are doing your experiments. So it's good for us all to do them together. It's like I'll tell you, we're working on this as like as for a client, like CFA is a client. So I don't have the answers. Like I don't know like, oh, this is what we need to do. We're going to run into problems and need to problem solve them as they come up. It's not like I have a pre-built
Yeah.
thing ready to ship on the side that I'm referencing to give to you guys. It's like I'm going to trying to build things and see what problems come up, and then we could talk about them. But I'm trying to be a few days ahead at least, so at least I know what's going to come up a couple days ahead of time. But yeah, so yeah, but for this stuff here, like I said, like you could keep it or not. It's just I wanted to look at the spec because you're asking me, but really our spec should be our line. But some things are ambiguous, so if it is ambiguous, it's like do some reasoning as why, so you could come back to your dev team and say, hey, I think we should add this because of this, or it's not really important. I'm just going to remove that because it isn't required in the spec, But just doing your due diligence,
Okay.
yeah. Because when you're working for someone like a business person that doesn't know tech, they'll overlook a lot of things that could really like give them quality of life or more insights. Whereas a developer coder usually have more attention to detail and the small, like the minutia. So you'll see a lot of things. So when you're talking to a business person, you could bring a lot of value by noticing things maybe they missed, especially if you're working for like a smaller company. Like they just don't know. I've like had some contract work for some nonprofits, and they just say, I want this thing that does this, and it's really up to you to go figure out like what their business flow is and like come in with a technical perspective. So yeah, all that being said, it's like just having that thought and like asking critically, like thinking about it critically and having that internal conversation about the things. And like the generation helps a lot with those things because if you don't feel like you have experience with like architecture or feel like way underqualified, you could actually sit there in a conversation with an LLM and get pretty good at like starting to ask yourself the right questions, I believe. Um, so yeah,
Okay. So yeah, I think
yeah.
that's it
Thanks for
for
demoing.
me.
That was super insightful and helpful, and good job on getting the Streamlit dashboard up and running. So yeah.
Thank you.
So I have a question because I did different how we move through the pages. So I think he had them on the sidebar. I have them on the actual top of the dashboard. Does the specs say anything about that
No,
or?
it doesn't. And actually, that's kind of like we kind of ran out of time on it, and we're not all there yet. Like for the design decisions that we want to take is talking about the layout of the dashboard. But honestly, the layout at this point of how our UI looks isn't super important. It will become important later on as you're fine tuning and want to do stuff. But right now, it's just does the nuts and bolts work? Are we getting the data there? Can I trace something through it? But yeah, no,
True.
that's perfectly fine. And like I said, we'll probably standardize on the featured branch I have, the week 2 walking skeleton branch that's up that I shared with you guys for a reference. We'll probably merge that into main. I gotta talk to Gayatri and Ritu. They're the curriculum developers, and I'm the dev. So I'm trying to we gotta come together and collaborate a little bit. But that's how I want to do it. Just so you guys actually are getting some practice working as a team. Not only are you going to learn how to code up the agents, but also getting some collaboration work. I don't know, like our experience based on schooling varies. If you get that kind of stuff, or if it's a solo projects, it's really important. And then you'll actually be pushing your own work up into a branch rather than just working on these solo branches. Um, I actually want to get you guys into a development branch that we can merge into main. So all this boilerplate stuff for the first couple of weeks, it's really doesn't matter, and it would take a lot longer to have everyone do something separate and set it up. Usually, on projects I've worked on with like people, I've worked on projects with like 6 to 8 people, and usually there's always like the lead dev will come in and set up a framework really quick that everyone works in, and then everyone kind of gets delegated to certain like files or features that involve certain files. So that way you're not stepping on each other with merge conflicts when you're trying to merge. So there's always that big initial push by one person to get everything kind of set up, and then to use that as your baseline. At least that's been my experience. I was in smaller companies. But yeah, does anyone else? Is anyone else ready to share? That was Emilio, right? Yeah, thanks, Emilio.
I can share.
Okay, cool. So with you, do you want to just run the pipeline? So,
From the dashboard or is I do have a bottom on the
oh,
sidebar.
nice. That's cool. Yeah, you could do that if you have it set up to the dashboard and not on the terminal. That's cool.
Yeah, so
Yeah, yeah.
we can get a fresh run from the dashboard, so everything shown comes from a lib run context, and we can see like a little summary of how many we have, how many were completed, how many failed, and how many partial. Like if some of them were completed but some of them failed, that would be that would be a partial one, right? So that run creates a single correlation ID for traceability. The core pipeline execution is 6 stages, but the task for observability is normalized to each stage visibility, right? Since we're going to be implementing 8 of them. Um, this page basically answers 3 operational questions. Did the run complete? Which stages failed or were missing? And which records were impacted, right? Stage held shows the latest run status. Pre-record stage matrix is the audit view. Each record across all 8 stages, so we can immediately see where our record diverged. Um, we would be this one, and the run list is a summarized run state and counts over time, which is what we use to monitor, I would say, stability. If we go to the second page that I have them over here at the top, which is record journey, um, A timeline will show the 8 stages in order with timestamp, stage status, and event identity. Failure details highlights the first non-completed stage. If a stage is missing, it means no event was produced for that stage. If a stage is failed, we surface relevant payload fields for diagnosis. What else we have over here? So this is the failure details. In this case, there's no failures. We can also filter by run, which would be the correlation ID for each run. How many records we want to see. If we go to batch insights, which is the final page, um, we can see how each stage communicates via share event envelope, and we preserve outrun levels and event level identifiers for observability. We have the output quality, which is the average quality score, the spam score as well. We have the missing fields for, in this case, the job posting, I think, is a senior data engineer. So that posting did have all those fields. So that's why we're not showing any. For the extraction volume, it's only one job posting. When we run several job posting, this will increase. For the anomalies and drifts, there's no anomalies. There's no anomalies between all the runs I have made.
Okay.
And the top skills for each job posting. Of course, this will make the graph bigger when we have several job postings
Yeah, we'll have
in
to
the
figure out
runs.
the graph right because if you have, is that all skills in general or is that just for the software engineer role?
This is just for this posting right here,
Okay, so
which is
the senior data
which is
engineer. Gotcha. Yep. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So
Mhm.
yeah. Cool.
Oh no, you know what? I think this is for all the runs that I have made. Because it says skill Python count 10, so I don't think this job posting only have 10 Python skills. So these top skills would be
Oh,
between all the
this is
runs.
the aggregate of all of them, correct? Yeah. This is
It is an aggregate.
Yep. So yeah. So this is like just a basic example, right? The bar chart, but like once you get like 1,000 skills, like a bar chart no longer really shows you the data well, right? But yeah,
Yeah, true.
we I use a bar chart as well. I'm just saying like we'll have to figure something out like in our design for our table and how we viz the data, so our data viz will have to be thought about there. But yeah, this is a really thorough dashboard. It goes like above and beyond what was asked. Oh, we're going to infinite screen. Did I do that or is that you? Oh, that's you. Okay. Yep.
That's me. There you go.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, it's really good implementation. I think there's more there than is needed. It's like but yeah, you did a great job and you understand it helped you understand the things. I actually wanted to ask you about the load runs on the left hand side where you had like the load latest. I think it was load latest run.
Let me.
Yeah. Can you
So this
share again? I just wanted to ask about something real quick.
correct, right?
Yeah. Load. Oh yeah. Load from path. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so basically, I implemented that so that if you have a file, a JSON file with several rounds in it, you can drop it there and it will diagnose for you, basically. It will tell you the same analytics that we have here. So
Yeah, so
it's just, for
if you go
example,
to the file like where it saves the JSON, I think it's pipeline runner like dump or JSON or whatever it was called, like load from like you remember the file? Does it if you run multiple runs, it just appends it to that file, correct? Or is it write a separate
yes.
file? Okay, so in that
Mhm.
you have it set up to load existing run will give you a drop down and show you like all the different objects from that file. Essentially, then is that how you have it? Do you have that implemented and set up like that?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay, this is a load existing run. I was like, are you actually going through the different runs and like looking at the IDs, like the correlation ID and grabbing like parsing them out of the file. I just wondered because it's a lot of extra work that wasn't asked for. So I hope just time constraint wise, I hope you're not spending too much time
No,
doing
I, I,
extra.
I was just messing around with the
It's cool. Don't
information.
get me wrong, it's cool, but yeah, cool.
I
All
was
right.
trying to just contain the information we are given through the job postings, and I was just messing around with the UI.
Yep. Cool. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, let me stop streaming. Yeah, that's why I was asking about the specs of the dashboard, but since that does not matter until now, we might need to talk about that later in the project.
Yeah.
Just what we're gonna show, what analytics we need.
All right, I'm trying to find my. Drag this over here. All right, so yeah, does every so for us like we have the run summary like uh batch health glance like we can see it in the dashboard like I think it's pretty obvious like from what we have right now with the fixtures like everything's runs like we expect it. We're seeing it. The record journey, we're tracing one record end to end by correlation ID. I I'm sure, like, I don't want to keep asking you guys the same questions, but I'm sure after a couple people do it, everyone understands that. Does anyone have any more questions? Does anyone have any questions about how that relationship is? I think it's um, been stated, but I just want to make sure people understand before I just move on too quickly. Okay, and then the batch insights, output quality, and drift signals. Like you have those on yours on your dashboard, but right now there's like no drift signals because we're just uploading the same data all the time. And then oops, wrong window. Yeah, so we have a per record status across all 8 stages. Uh, Fast filters, we haven't really seen any failed ones. So yeah, so can somebody else demo and show me what happens when health checks run like don't execute? So in each of your agent files in the stubs, let's look at the health check and see what happens. What you did there, if and show me like, does it fail fast? Does it pass it on to the next agent? Like, can someone just walk me through that process, please? Does anyone have know what I'm saying?
I can, yeah, I can show what I have.
Okay, great, Ricardo. Thank you.
So the health check, um, this is in the injection agent, and so uh, yeah, so it gets like the fixture if it has one. Otherwise, it goes into the like fallback, and then uh, it sets the status either to awk or down, and then it returns like the health check. That's in the agent part. And before doing like runs, uh, like the pipeline run, it runs a health check through all the agents to see if they are like to see the health of the agents. And so in case uh, one of them like the status is like down or is not awk, then it logs the information and that should be reflected in the like dashboard.
Yeah, that's awesome. And why do we do that? Can you explain why that would be important? Like if we were doing API calls or LLM usage inside our agents.
Yeah, in case one of them is not connected, like at this point, some of the agents are LLM that make API calls. So if one of them is not working, there's like no point in running the pipeline because there is no connection to the agent.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, and you might incur costs for no reason. So the health checks are really important if you're when it comes to token usage or API usage limits or something. You don't want to run stuff. Yeah. So yeah, very good. Thank you. And yeah, and so we have that base contract. It's just that we have in the base agent that requires a health check to be written, and then the health checks are only as good. Like right now, just checking for the fixtures, that will obviously need to be, or maybe not so obviously, it will need to be modified as we work on the different logic. Because like if we start connecting and there's different tool usage and API calls and such inside our agents, we got to make sure in the health check that we're checking to see all those things. So right now, like the degraded option isn't really relevant because we're only checking for one thing. So it's only yes or no. It's only okay or it's only down, right? But you might have um, a couple different checks that you have to check against for an agent, and it might be degraded, and it might be okay to run. Like so, maybe something's not there. Maybe it's a normalization agent or something, and you have a few different tools, and it's degraded. And we inside our health checks, we'd basically just create some helper functions to use in there as it gets more complex. To maybe a health check has a few different things it has to check, and there's some kind of decision making process, so we could actually still run that, but we want to flag something that's not working, so we could resolve it, but it may not have to just halt the whole process. So it's making those decisions and those calls when we're working on the individual agents. So does somebody else want to share a dashboard or even console logs? Would be fine if you don't have the dashboard yet, just to see like the correlation IDs and the JSON objects.
Yeah, I can show the JSON.
Okay.
We're going straight.
Juan? Yeah. Okay. Great.
Oh, there you go. This is what I have right now. I was kind of working on the dashboard a bit on the side, but just had to download my dependencies again. Uh, so whenever I run the pipeline runner, so if I do um this, and then I'll send it to the JSON, which is in data output, and then this is what I get.
Yeah. Awesome. So
I
if we,
get a yeah, but
yeah, I was going to ask a question about this data. So yeah, we'll use this as a reference because you don't have it in the in a dashboard yet, but you can answer it here, I guess. How do you confirm all records made it through all stages, and what would you scan first, like under pressure? Like if there's like you got that just to follow up on that 2 a.m. question, like someone calls you, hey, this needs to run. What's broken? What's going on? What would you look at first here to see like what was
so
broken?
I would look for the correlation ID, so the one that uh they're looking for, and then it has um oh, what's it called? So it has one for each correlation ID, so you can look for that correlation ID and then look where that fails. So if one is missing, then that means it didn't reach that stage. So you can kind of see like how that went through. So it went through the ingestion, it went through all of this, and then I also have like a separate one for each one that runs. So that's how you would check.
Yeah, good. And do you also have? I don't know where this is written off the top of my head, but like the health checks, like it's written somewhere too because it's on the dashboard. Uh,
Uh,
when we just do the health check pass, right? Because we could actually look at the correlation ID and then just do a scan of health checks. And if something failed and stopped and they're getting errors, you can see immediately where it's at.
I believe it doesn't, but it shows like if the run was aborted. But the health checks, no, I don't see them right now.
Can you scroll down farther? Is there a different separate list of objects? No. Maybe maybe it's not at the top. Yeah, it's each it's a list of lists, right? That's what this is. A list of objects, or a list of that contains objects. Has a set of
Yeah, so it
yeah,
contains like the correlation ID for each
yeah.
one. But no, I can go ahead and implement that. But so I'll take that into account.
Yeah, but by tomorrow, if you don't have it done yet, like I said, we'll just pull from week 2. It's just understanding that
Yeah.
and looking at the dashboard and
Mhm.
just being able to walk the code to find those things. You know.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So each week, we do have like 20 hours of work going in. You want to get too far behind on that, but 20
Yeah.
hours going in. But like if any of you do fall behind, um, I want to be able to provide the code to keep you moving. And as long as you're
Mhm.
learning the concepts and could go and uh, have a code base to reference for your own work later and help you out, kind of pay it forward to help you guys get into some credentials to for agentic programming and to learn how to use AI to code, for productivity. I'll tell you
Mhm.
like my workload right now is like 10x compared to what it was last year just because once you get the tools everyone expects you to do more and like without the tools now I could not handle my workload at all. It's so insane. like it's so insane. But with AI, it makes it manageable. I'm doing like the work of like a team of 6 people. So you want to
Right.
be able to do that because I've actually been more productive this last few months. You kind of go slower at first. I actually felt like when I first started using a like the like cursor and Claude stuff to code, like I felt like I it was 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Like it felt like it really wasn't that great. But then when you kind of get into a groove of how to use it too, but then like yeah, it's just like I was running a team of 6 people this time last year, and I feel like by myself this year at this same time this year, I'm getting more done by myself than I was with that team of 6 people last year. So it's
Yeah,
pretty.
I feel the same way with this. Like with ChatGPT, I feel like it was helpful, but not to the level of Cursor. Like at the beginning, it was kind of hard to understand it, but now that I see the power that it has, it's like damn, insane. I like it though.
Yeah, as a side note, because but just like so, I was playing a game called No Man's Sky for a while. You guys may have heard of it, but I was playing this game right, and like I was like, I wonder if Cursor could just code me up this like interactive thing to get these coordinates to travel around the galaxy. So I just gave it like the wiki references because there's like fan-based wikis with all this information and like
Mm.
how everything's set up like in the game and the spatial stuff. I gave it to it and it like it used like this is my own personal account, so that's why I say don't use it this way because it burned through like 80% of my usage for the month, but it built me what I wanted without any like me having to specify. I didn't even give it any kind of architecture. I just said this is what I want. Here's a screenshot of what I want it to look like, kinda, and then I just said, oh yeah, fix if it's something breaks and like gives me something to debug. I just like copy and paste it in because I was just like I wasn't trying to like use it to be efficient. I was just trying to see the limitations of where cursor was at, if it was worthwhile to use. And that was kind of like my test of, is this worth using? I'm just going to see what it can do. But it did like the camera, so I could fly a camera around, like and if I zoomed out, it went to like a overview camera, and if I zoomed in so far, it would go to like a first person camera, and like it did all that, the camera and the 3D. Using matrices and transformations and everything, it wrote it all for me. And that's some of the I don't know if you guys ever played around with like graphics animations like the math and stuff, but it's like pretty tricky to figure out sometimes. But yeah, it was able to just figure it out and help me out. So
And
uh
it doesn't complain.
it doesn't complain. I find myself saying please sometimes. I'm like, why am I saying please to this thing?
Or
uh
thank you.
yeah, like, oh thanks. uh but yeah. uh Anyhow, yeah. All right, so next we're gonna move on to how many slides do we have left here? There's a couple slides. We got 10 minutes left. So like the batch insights, I feel like a lot of you know where you're at with this. I shared the slides. We're getting down to the last 10 minutes. I really want to stop for retro and just get your guys' thoughts and talk a little bit about um tomorrow, because tomorrow we have our kickoff. So yeah, um, the batch inside, so like the pipeline succeeded versus the output is good. Right now, our outputs look awesome because we have the fixtures. But the separate pipe, like there's a difference between the pipeline succeeding and then the output is good, right? And I, like the everything runs correctly, but then crawl for AI pulls everything and it maps things crazily wrong, so you don't get data right. That's one of the outputs we'll have to look at. And actually, for me, I just used crawl for AI to pull from USA Jobs, you know, a government site, and like the output at first was complete garbage. But what was really cool is I could say, okay, write me a script to just like pull the raw data, and then I'm like, okay, then I give the raw data to the AI, and I say, okay, now map my data structure for crawl for AI USA Jobs adapter to align with this structure, and then like 5 minutes later, I have a perfect mapping where now it's pulling records clean, you know. So I just had to give it the HTML, like the raw HTML, so it could see all the tags, you know. So I've tried scraping before in the past, and it's super tedious to do it without those kind of tools. So it just took a tedious task and made it like nothing. Um, but yeah, so yeah, just as we get into the next week, we'll be focusing more on that. Right now, just understanding that concept, and then you know our charts are the missing fields, the extraction volume, and then tracking anomalies and drift. Like obviously we don't have any anomalies or drift in our fixtures, but that'll become something that becomes more relevant in the future. And we all, from everything I've seen so far, and look at the even look at the branches, everyone's using the real output data. No one's hard. They're using variables. They're not hard coding any data in there from the fixtures or anything. So or any health checks. So that's good. Yeah, so from what I've seen, you know, this is what you want your Streamlit app to do, that the pages render reliably. Um, in my experience, you guys, it looks like you guys having the same thing. Like Cursor gets it right, pretty much one off. Streamlit's pretty easy to use, and there must be a lot of data it was trained on because it seems to output Streamlit apps pretty easily. So I have a question for you guys. What do you think? So like in the world of AI generated code, do you think that you'd rather work on open source projects or like proprietary stuff? Like, for instance, a lot of companies use Microsoft Teams and Azure and like AWS. Like, what are your thoughts? Like, I just want to say my thoughts, but I want to ask like what your thoughts are because like it's interesting to be like before, like you know we talked about like generalist or expert knowledge before, and I think that like you could really get into proprietary stuff and make a lot of money in the past. But now it's like I think you're almost limited because like there's not as much training data on proprietary stuff where you could use AI to be super productive with open source tools because there's so much just out there that the AIs have learned from, the LLMs have been trained on. It's more technically accurate, but basically I'm just having small talk and I wanted to see what do you guys want to be like? What do you guys want to do with this stuff? Like, do you, yeah. Anyway,
I guess to answer
For
that,
me,
I'll go ahead,
oh
bro.
sorry. Oh, okay. For me, I think like the open source is a bit better since I mean it's my first time, for example, using GitHub with like a team. But and I'm more accustomed to using like Teams or Microsoft for like projects, like team projects. So for me, it's I think open source is the best way because like you it's a bit more customizable, and I think that if you are good at open source, it'll be easier to like adapt to other already known proprietary like apps. Yeah, that's it for me.
yeah, cool. Thanks. Yeah, no, yeah, because yeah, I think about like my time like jumping into Azure for the first time and using having to write apps that you know you have to write actually as a plugin, and you're forced to use VS Code because that's the only thing that will connect to the Azure is VS Code, and now Cursor because it's written off of VS Code, But uh, yeah, and like so it was a big learning curve, and then any kind of help Microsoft learn was kind of hard to navigate and wasn't always updated. There you'd find old stale documentation, and it's like it doesn't apply to what you're doing anymore. So you'd have to go to the community forums to figure out what's going on. But it's crazy because like it's a steeper learning curve, and then if you're trying to use like the cursor to help with that stuff, it also gets it wrong a lot more often because there's just not as much examples out in the open space. It's all proprietary stuff owned by businesses hidden behind private repos that weren't scraped. Like GitHub and any public repo have been scraped for data for trading. So anything out there that's public. So any open source projects, I think it's just easier to work with in the capacity of using AI as an like coding assistant because it just knows it intrinsically better. Or so it's like kind of shifted my thinking. Like I'm like, oh, I want to get expert knowledge. Like I will go in and I'll learn like all the Azure tooling for doing all these things and building these projects because most businesses use Microsoft and they probably are like sucked into a plan and so embedded in the Microsoft architecture that they couldn't get away if they wanted to. Like so it's like I wanted to learn that stuff, but now I'm like this like my thinking's been changing on it. So yeah, so this is our sign out. This is a sign off. So traceability, I think everyone understands traceability. We talked about debugging it. Um, the code review day, we kind of talked about the architecture and why the pipeline structure works, so how we could easily implement um, another agent just by adding it to the list of agents. And then the pipeline run JSON is created for output to our dashboard. Later on we might actually want to save this rather than as a JSON file. We'll want to save it in a database, so we could actually pull the data from a database with a query rather than just reading and writing files because it's a lot slower. But yeah. So just real quick as we're closing, I know it's 3 o'clock. Um, so for you guys, what worked this like week in this last couple of weeks? What worked? Like what didn't? And what would you like to change next sprint? Is there any kind of feedback you guys have? This is a pilot. This is our first time doing this. So is there anything? And you could, I take constructive criticism very well too. So I know that there's things I already know I could improve on as we're moving forward. But if there's anything you guys see that would help you out, I just want to make sure that I apply those things and take them into consideration. So if you guys have anything going forward that would help you out better, let me know. And
I
you
do
could,
want to talk about the required weekly discussions. I feel that at least for this week, I feel that some of them were like similar in what we were supposed to be reading and the task itself as well. So I don't know if everyone agrees, but if we can have like it obviously will depend on the phase. But if the less the better. You know what I mean? Or at least if you can make them like a reading bigger and more questions, but if you can reduce the amount of task and reading.
gotcha. Yeah, that
You know
makes
what I mean?
sense. Yep, that makes sense. Yeah, so more
Yeah, I
depth.
second that too.
Yeah, more depth, less reading. Like like less tasks, but more depth.
Yeah,
That
there you go. Because I feel there's a lot of them right now. I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and I believe that some of them we were asked similar stuff to read or to do or to even answer. You know what I mean?
yeah, I
If
saw some similarities too.
if you
Yeah,
can merge
yeah, it
some
was
of
just
them.
yeah. My thought, I totally take that into consideration, and we'll work on that. But the thought here too was that like reinforcement learning, like you cover things a couple times, it really kind of breaks it in. But yeah, if it's too much, we'll trim it up for sure. Yeah. Yeah, if it's too much redundancy, because yeah, I get it. I don't want to. And honestly, like I said before, the required like the reading isn't that big of a like. You're not gonna be like, oh, they didn't pass the course because they didn't respond to the reading. It's mostly the tasks and the code. Like push your guys' code every day, like even if it's broken, like commit and push upstream. So that way I could look at branches if my coworkers or my boss wants to be like, hey, how's everyone doing? I could get a snapshot of what you're doing. Like, oh yeah, they're pushing code, because at the end of the day, these are here to support the writing of code. The code is the it into the means, right? Like the means. These are just a means to the end, but the code's the output, right? We want to have a product, so these are just there to reinforce that. So
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, like the rating is not bad. At the end of the day, we need to understand the system, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that redundancy
No, I
about
appreciate the
what.
feedback. Thank you. Yeah, I don't take it badly at all. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Cool. Is there any other feedback? Cool. All right. Well, it's 3:05, so I'm gonna call it. Tomorrow we'll meet again at 2 p.m. Our time. You guys are 2 hours ahead, so 4 p.m. Right? Um, yeah, I'm looking forward to see you tomorrow. And we'll talk about what's coming, and hopefully I'll get everything, majority of stuff, up for week 3 on Discord by the end of the night, or by the end of tomorrow night at the latest. So all right. Thanks everyone. If you have any questions, you can stick around and ask, or I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank
Thank
you,
Thank
Gary.
you.
you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bye, Yuri.
Yep. Bye.
Thank you, Gary.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.